SLC6 is in the books, and can I be the first to say, good. Ever since the first gate dropped, everything has gone wrong, including, by the way, this script. That's right, while I was away from the computer, it decided to force a Windows update, and I lost it. All of it. So I'm rewriting it, re-recording it. SLC6 is still biting me in the ass even 24 hours after the checkers fly. I had a bad time, Steve had a bad time, Dirty Al had a bad time, Jason Anderson had a bad time, Davalos had a really, really bad time. Goodbye, good riddance, SLC6. Hello fantasy fans, my name is Donnie and welcome to the 16th episode of PulpMX Fantasy Supercross Preview, the penultimate show, that means next to last, of the season. As always, I have 5 riders you need to know before making your picks, some FFL intel, an overview of the track layout, something new this week, weather update, race day schedule, and even a preview of my way too early starting 8. But before we get to all of that, I must, much to my chagrin, go over a bit of what happened Sunday night. So let's take a look. Another small uptick in players for Salt Lake. 540-56 Championship League players set their 8 riders on Sunday, an uptick of 2.1% to go along with the 2.9% additional players throughout the entire field. We are still down 500 players from the peak SLC2 and down almost half from the close to 14,000 players that set their lineup for A1. Hopefully we can finish off the Supercross season strong in these next 2 races, but I feel like we might lose even some more players that are discouraged after the disaster that was SLC6. For the first time since round 7 in Tampa, we had 16 viable All-Stars to pick from, and they all made the main. Unfortunately, only 8 of them maxed out with 26 points, 5 from the 250 class and only 3 perfects from the 450. Anderson and Amart really broke some hearts with their DNFs, leading them to single-digit scores for their teams. Of the 28 riders in the main eligible for double points, 22 of them managed to double up, led by Jet Lawrence's 46 and McAdoo's 42. As expected, the scoring was way down this week. The perfect team would have netted you just 286 if you nailed both FFLs that could have quickly turned into 316, but that's very unlikely as less than 200 people had Dylan Ferrandis for the 250 FFL. The median score way down with so many broken hearts to 183, meaning if you scored 184 or more, you did better than half the league, including myself. Putting some guys on blast, a total of 79%. Pick Trend scored 0 points on Sunday, led by Alex Ray's 22%. I think he could very well take credit for just about 50% of that after his first turn wheel tuck in the LCQ, killing my dreams and the dreams of many others that like to play dangerously with LCQ guys. The only real 250 burner was Chase Felong, burning 8.6% of players after failing to back up his heater when it really counts. Finally, a low count of no excuse misses this time. Carson Brown's practice crash injury fell on deaf ears to about 400 players. For some reason, 1.3% of players picked Logan Carnow on the 450 despite him racing the 250 class on the night. Did you guys know there's literally a feature on the site to filter out guys that didn't ride qualifying? When making your picks, after qualifying has started, but before the heat races, go to your team and click the little box and it will only show you riders that are poised to make the night show. Obviously, this doesn't cover injuries that happen during the day, but hey, it's better than nothing. Thanks, Marks. Looking at my team, as Steve would say, the plane has crashed into the mountain as I brought home my lowest score since Vegas in 2019. Derek Kelly crashed out early while riding well and rolled around to 11 points despite a 7 handicap. However, good on DK for staying on the track the entire main as he easily could have pulled off. He salvaged 3 extra points and I really appreciate it. Cunningham fell victim to some HEP friendly fire in the heat when 7 Deuce took him down, and then I was secondhand A-Raid when he got caught up in that LCQ crash. And of course, Martied. We all knew it was coming, but I did not expect him to be such a dirty boy, essentially caressing the ground pretty much all night. 166 points really stings as I feel I'm officially out of contention for that top 100 finish and a national number. And I know I'm not alone as this half of the Roto League still managed to finish under me. But not everybody in the Roto League had a bad time. 3 Smoke finally put together a great week, bringing home 266 points for 18th overall in the Championship League, his only result of the season in the top 1500. B. Smith, 831, did have a rough week, but not enough to ruin his season. 3,604 points on the year, 34 points ahead of EXO, and a real likely chance to break 4,000 mark this season. All right, so we are at the point where we would look forward to SLC6, but before we get to those meat and taters, I just want to talk real quick about the future of the channel. I cannot wait for Sunday to come and go so I can finally have a reprieve. I really underestimated how brutal this schedule could be, and it's really hindered my other projects, including work. We are a go for covering the outdoor season, so expect vidicals chronicling that as we move through the summer, but also I have some other rad stuff I'm waiting to drop, including some merch, shirts and stickers mostly, a Patreon for those of you who asked to give support, and I have some really cool content ideas for those of you guys that are into that brand of support. I'm planning on leaving a video content side just once a week, but I have some other content ideas coming your way as once we get back to the 1 a week races. But in the meantime, the best way to support the channel is all those likes and subs and whatnot most people preach. YouTube and Twitter especially count things like subscriptions, follows, likes, and most importantly, comments to tell if the content is worthy of putting in front of people's eyes. This also includes just letting the video finish all the way to the end. Whenever I drop the video and post on Twitter, I see how many people click the link, but it's always 10 times more clicks than likes. It's not just vanity. Interacting with the post matters a ton to the algorithm, so if you find the content I bring you valuable, take that extra second, tap the heart, and if you're really rad, drop a comment and tell me what you think, what I got wrong, what you like about the race. Doesn't matter. Appreciate it, guys. Anyway, back to those potatoes. Salt Lake 6 preview, the first of 5 riders to be aware of when picking your team is Chase Sexton or Shane McElrath, whatever. Marchbanks just announced he is out for the season, joining RJ and J-Mart on the sidelines, so there are only 5 All-Stars to choose from. For me, Chase has been top 2 every single week but one, and the only guys that have a real chance of standing in front of him are Shane and Colt. The other 3 guys have very generous handicaps, but I want to save them potentially for the shootout in case they're going to be eligible for big double points. One guy that I am staying away from this week is Kyle Peters. Despite a -3 handicap, he does technically have some value, as he very easily could end up in that 5th or 6th slot, but a 5th would only net him 30 points. And that is a low ceiling, as I would not be surprised if he gets beat by guys like Sexton, Shane, Nichols, even Swole, Brown, Lopes, Shimoda, maybe even Chris Blows could sneak in front of him, and that puts him out of double points. But a bigger point, Peters, Nichols, and Pierce Brown will have a much better handicap next week for the shootout, and with top 10 potential could land huge points. Speaking of, don't forget that any East rider you pick for Wednesday's race will not be available for you for the showdown, but every West rider will be available. So if you're the kind that likes to zig when everybody's zagging, I would expect most players to ignore this fact and be forced to go West heavy next week. So save up some good East picks for next week, and maybe you can have some good points that they cannot answer. The high handicap hero for Wednesday is Grant Harlan. Grant rattled off 3 consecutive mains, punctuated with a 13th at Daytona and a 14th at SLC1 before hurting his wrist in practice at SLC2. No major injuries, but he was unable to line up and just decided to come back stronger for SLC6. Grant has a realistic chance of cracking the top 20, which would let him ride in the showdown, so I expect him to be riding hard to make enough points to qualify for Sunday, and at an 8, he could be poised for 36 points or more. Moving on to the 450 class, your all-star should be Jason Anderson. A 6? Come on, JA had an awful SLC5 after his bike was literally eaten by another person's bike. The week before he went down, he still managed to make it back to 7th place. He's now down 9 points to Barcia for 4th overall, so I expect to see El Hombre racing his ass off to catch him and pass him with just 2 rounds to go. The 5th and final guy to talk about is Brock Tickle. I'm putting him in the don't pick category, but it's a very loose condemnation. Tickle at a 6 has value. He could very well get you those 26 to 30 points, and I wouldn't be surprised. But that 12th place finish Sunday with a 6 handicap looks great on paper. But remember, he was running right where his handicap shows, 15th to 17th all race, until Freezy's bike ate Anderson's, and he managed to pass 5 guys in one corner. The track map is almost exactly the same as the last race, the only difference being those 2 flat corners are gone and replaced by a more traditional bull turn. The start, first corner, and first 3 rhythms are unchanged, so use last week as an example of possible outcomes. The only main change is the 4th rhythm is backwards and the flat turns are a little more traditional. Just to cover the 250 West FFL from last week, Ferrandis pulled his first of the year and almost had another in the heat, and I think that's just a huge testament to the advantage these star bikes have in this altitude. Cooper Webb also pulled his second of the season and his second in a row on Sunday. Coop could probably be a good pick again this weekend, but I'm still leaning Osborne with his 5. Kenny's back. However, every single 450 FFL in Salt Lake has gone to either an orange KTM or a white KTM, and you should probably stay with those colors. As stated before, the star bikes are absolutely mad in SLC, so I'm looking at Sugar Shane and his 4 combined FFLs, 2 of 3 which are in SLC, but Colt Nichols could very well play spoiler again in case you're trying to zig that zag. My way too early team has a lot of people we were just talking about. Give me Sexton for the All-Star for obvious reasons. Sexton is that guy I will pick every single chance I can unless he's at a 0. I'm also taking Justin Starling at a 7, although I kind of want to save him for the showdown, but if he can fight for that 13 to 15 round like he has been, I'll be pleased to take those points. Chase Marquier at a 10 is my risky pick, but somehow feels safe. He's made 4 consecutive mains, including a season best 16 at SLC1, and I'm looking for 30 or more points again this week. And rounding out the 250 squad is Grant Harlan for the reasons I had mentioned earlier. Moving on to the 450s, El Hombre for All-Star for the reasons given before. Despite my better judgment, I have Blake Baggett here at a 1. I have no idea still how Blake is 12th in points, and I think he's going to be fighting hard to at least salvage a top 10. Benny to 3, and 30% of people being locked out of him smells like big points being made up to me. And finally, Vince Freezy to 7. Again, yes, again. Seriously, this time for real. He looked frisky on the track Sunday, and his starts are on point. A 7 is as generous as he gets. I'm locking him in. I'm not a big FFL guy, but I need the points. I'm looking at Shane and Osborne this week to make up 30. I could really use those 30. The weather is a bit chilly for Wednesday's race, just 64 degrees when the first gate drops before falling to 62 when the checkers fly. The big takeaway is that it looks like this morning is going to be pretty wet. With rain coming in overnight, it should be a non-issue by the time racing begins, but it could play a bit of a spoiler for qualifying, so be sure to check the reports before taking too much out of the quali times. The schedule is the same as it's been qualifying at 3 Eastern. They will air 3 of the last 4 quali sessions. They will be airing 3 of the last 4 quali sessions. Air 450B NBC, you pussies. Beginning at 4:30 Eastern, 1:30 Pacific, and of course the cheat sheet will drop shortly after, around 6 Eastern. An hour later, the heat races begin. Gates drop at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. If this is your first time watching the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you're the first one to see the videos. Be sure to follow on Twitter and Instagram for the cheat sheets, injury updates, qualifying insight, and commentary memes as the race day unfolds. As always, my name is Donnie. This has been RotoX Fantasy. May your chiz chiz Wednesday, and Jerry's back. So make sure your Jerry's don't Jerry. Godspeed, good picks. Take care, guys.